Okay, we are recording. Hey, everybody, and we are recording this for there's a few people running home right now, and then there's a few people that will be watching the recording. So welcome, whether you're watching us through the live or the replay. This is week 3 of our 6-week leadership training series, and got some really good stuff to talk to you guys tonight, and it's really important stuff. So let me disclose something by saying that these are the things that I'm teaching you. The majority of them I have down, but I'm not perfect. I have to work on a lot of these too. But these are the things that it takes. So do y'all understand? I'm not trying to, y'all be like, well, she does that. I mean, like, don't call me out on it. I mean, these are the things you're supposed to do or you're not supposed to do, that I've learned. Now, I'm not saying I have perfected them all. I am a work in progress too, but the majority of them I would say I've got a handle on, and but we all have to keep growing, right? So these are the things that are going to help you grow. So tonight we're going to talk about being a problem solver. And guys, I cannot stress enough how important it is that you become a problem solver. Your leadership is going to go as far as your problem solving abilities. If you can't solve problems or be a part of that process, you're stuck in the mud. I mean, it's just part of as you grow as a leader, and as you grow as a leader, and as your team grows, and as you become further and further, your team continually expanding, then the bigger problems that you solve. But we get paid to solve problems. So just remember that. That's part of what being a leader is all about, is you're paid, the bigger the problems, the bigger your paycheck is. I know that sounds crazy, and you guys are thinking, she's nuts, but it's true. And thank goodness, I'm pretty blessed with this group that we don't really have those big problems. And I hear nightmare stories sometimes, and I'm like, we don't have that. So kudos to you guys, because you're the best of the best. But I hope that makes sense when I say that the bigger the responsibility, sometimes the bigger the problem. So the first thing I want to talk about is there's 3 qualities that make a good leader, and they are a cool head, a warm heart, and thick skin. These are 3 things you must master. A cool head, a warm heart, and thick skin. And these are the things that you literally must master them. And I'm still working to master those things. And some of the things that I'm going to tell you and we're going to talk about tonight are some of the things that play into that. But ultimately, that is the ultimate rule, the ultimate 3 things that are going to separate you from the pack. If you have a hot head and you immediately respond to situations that can get heated or questioned and not remain cool, you're not going to continue to grow. You have to show that you can contain yourself and that you have self-control. So a leadership is a lot about self-control, because there's a lot of things you want to say, right? There's a lot of things you want to say in a situation, especially if it's one that gets your blood pressure up. But that's when you have to say, I have to keep a cool head. So just remember, don't react. Don't react. Just breathe for a minute and kind of reboot. So a knee-jerk situation in a leadership role where a serious knee-jerk can knee-jerk you right out of the business, because the news it'll spread like wildfire. And you will not be looked at as a very good leader because you didn't have this thing called self-control. And you reacted instead of pause and let me think about this for just a minute. And it's hard. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Sometimes it's really, really hard. A warm heart. If you're in this for you and you're in this to feed your ego, and you're in this to make this all about you and just all those things that, some people make it about, then you don't have the warm heart that's needed to lead a tribe of a volunteer army. You can't tell people what to do in what we're doing. You must have the warm heart to inspire them. And And then thick skin. You have to be able to let things roll off. Let them roll off. And turn your phone off, go to bed, whatever you have to do. I know that we got a lot of wine drinkers on here, so drink you some wine, whatever you have to do. But you must have thick skin, and you must, I just can't stress enough to not react. You must think it through, and have time to think it through. You can always say too little, but you can't, when you say too much, you can't take it back. So remember that. You have to be a good listener. I don't know, is Lindsay on here? Anybody see her? So I'll tell you what just happened just a little bit ago. So Lindsay has a new social marketer, and we did the kind of getting started welcome call together. So there's one thing that I want to tell you guys, because a lot of you were not with us in our previous company, and we did a lot of learning by being present on the phone. So like when you have a new social marketer and you're like, I've got a really good one here. Like what Lindsay did was she put me on the phone with her social marketer, and she listened to what I say when I talk to a new social marketer. And like, I didn't tell her to do that, but she's a sponge. Like she wants that knowledge. She wants to know what's going on. She wants to know how to get better and grow. And so she's that sponge. And so that's the best advice I have to you. Don't pass them off to someone. Say, can I be on the call with you? Can I be on that call with you to learn? I'll be muted. I'm not going to say a word. I just want to learn. And because we have a way to say things and address things that we've been around the block a little bit longer than you have. And we can think a little bit quicker on our feet only because we've been doing this longer. And you'll get there. But, we forget that in this particular company, there's not a lot of that. In the other company, we did 3-way calls. Y'all know how we do 3-way chats. Well, we did that with a phone call. And so you were on there all the time listening to the way things were said. And you got to the point where you could repeat them verbatim. Like you knew exactly what they were going to say, but that process taught me so much, and we don't have that here. So if you want to be a really good leader and you want to be a sponge to start getting ahead of the game, in other words, you're growing as a leader and you're going to play catch up, so you can get ahead of that curve and be prepared for that next level. Nobody says you have to play catch up. So we talked afterwards, and we just voice texted or whatever. And so one of the things that she learned was that I just kept asking questions and asking more questions until eventually we were able to connect on, I believe it was 3 levels. 3 different things connected us. And I promise you, those 3 things that we talked about that connected us, that we both had or both experienced, she'll never forget it. And so she said, that was the main part I took away, was keep asking questions until you find a way to connect with them. And I said, you're exactly right. That's hands down, that's what you have to do. Because it puts people at ease. It just helps them to relax and be like, wow, these people are legit, So that's a good tip that I have for you is there's nowhere here that's a lot of the things that I'm teaching and that you guys are learning are things that we take for granted that and you don't. That's what started the whole thing behind this series. So take your learning curve a little higher by stepping up your game to be that person that's a sponge. Would you mind if I'm going to be muted? I'm not going to say a word. Can I be on that call with you? I want to hear what you say. Can I be on that call with you? Would you mind if I joined you on that call? I won't say a word. I'm here to learn. Guys, the person who does that the most wins. I have no other way to say that. How important that is. So being a good listener is a big part of growing as a leader. A lot of times how many people are listening to someone talk, and instead of listening to what they're saying, they're constantly thinking about what you're going to say. Happens a lot. That's where you have to back it up and don't be thinking about what your response is going to be. Truly listen to them, and you're going to find a connection. So the next thing we're going to talk about, when you have a problem that comes up, don't pass the buck. Don't ever say, oh, well, I'm going to put you in touch with Dina. She can handle that. Mm-mm. You just pass the buck. And what you say is, you know what? I don't know the answer to that question, but I promise you, we're going to get to the bottom of it, and I'll find somebody who can answer it. And you stay in the middle of that process. Y'all get that? So, and what you've done is you've learned along that way too. So nobody wants to see somebody pass the buck. So, Laura, you did that today. You passed the buck, or you didn't pass the buck? So anyway, didn't. Good. That's a big part of stretching. And it also shows the person that you're working with that you care. It's little subtle things like that make them think, wow, they really do care. And that's what sets us apart from, if you want to be set apart from other leaders, these are the things you have to do. If you just want to be known as a leader that, yeah, she's pretty good, she's mediocre, go for it. But if you want to be the best, these are the things you have to do. You got to go over and beyond. You got to be that girl that goes over and beyond into the next step. It's also very important, being a problem solver, that you know the strengths and weaknesses of the people in your organization, so that you can help guide them down the road of getting better at what they're weak at and learning their strengths, and their strengths can teach you. You're never arrive. You're always evolving. You always want to grow, and everybody's got something to teach. That's very important. So you want to be sure that you are aware of the weaknesses. So if you've got somebody that's, not really good at getting people off to a good start, maybe they have had a couple of people come back and say, I talked to this person and I'm more confused now than I was before I talked to her. She told me all these things to do. I'm lost. I'm overwhelmed. You get a couple of those and you're going to know this person does not need to be talking to people to get them off to a good start. They need to be on calls right away to learn how to do this, because the reports are coming in and they're overwhelming people and they're making the situation worse. You could have a rock star, an elite 3 that you push right out of the business by doing that kind of stuff. So don't try to make something you're not good at right now and try to say, oh, I'm ready to take on this. I'm going to do it. Don't, until you've been on enough calls that you are now comfortable with doing this and you've learned how to read people better. I'm going to say, don't do it if it's your weakness. Get someone else to help you. And it's just an eye opener, guys. It's going to grow. It's just going to do wonders in your business when you simply pull back for just a minute and say, you know what? I don't think I'm really good at that. And just own it. Don't try to be like, I am too good at it. They're crazy. I told them everything they need to know. I mean, like when you start getting the ego back that they're crazy. That's not how that conversation went. You're not striving to grow. You want to argue. And you have to back up, and you cannot argue, because in their eyes, that's how they feel. They're overwhelmed. They're more confused. And that's the level, and that's where they're at. And in their head, that's where they're at. So don't tell them you're wrong. I told you exactly what to do. You told me you could handle this. And now, you've told people that I confused you. You're headed down the wrong road, sister. Just simply say, I am so sorry. And I want to be better at this, and I'm going to do some things that are going to help me be better at this. And I am sorry that I confused you more. I mean, don't excuses. You got to get rid of them. You got to move them on down the road. You have to be a solution driver throughout your organization. Not only do you be a solution-oriented person, you teach your other people to be solution-oriented. When you can teach them to solve problems, then, it's just a matter of what we do in all this business. What we do now is we're duplicating. You're going to duplicate that in too. So this is a question that I want you guys to write down. And it's along the lines of um, of saying and meaning what you say. And so this one, I think Justin Prince said this one, and it really, really just kind of ignited something in me. He said, plan to be there when your friends who've been through battle with you, when their change comes. I mean, that was a game changer to me, because we're in battle with all these people, and you want to be there when their moment comes, because it's going to come. It's just everybody's journey is different. So tell yourself right now that I'm going to be there when the change comes for the person that's been going through battle with me. And you see them as your battle partner, as your sister soldier. And it just made a really big difference to how I see people. And even when they struggle, and when they are saying I'm struggling, and or maybe it's really hard. One of the biggest problems that you're going to run across is comparison. Comparison is the thief of joy. And you're going to have people in your organization that are going to get very just down. They're going to have days when they're down because they see other people flying right by. And that's hard to swallow for a lot of people, especially the people who are working hard. And they just have to remember, and you have to coach them through that. And their time is coming. And I'm in battle with you, and I will be here when the change comes. And you kind of have to have that whole spin on that to let them know that, you know, you're my partner. And no, I understand. I mean, you know, I'm understanding how you feel, but tomorrow's a new day and it can't rain forever. So we are going to do this. Shake it off. Hold your head up high, and you just simply send them back out into battle with their armor on. And so that's going to come. And so you have to be a good coach to lift people up, because there's going to be days when people just need some help. They just are, especially the people who are competitive. And when they see someone else fly by like that, that's hard on them. And they just have to understand, your story is your story. Their journey is not your journey. Your journey is just yours alone. So you have to remember that. And sometimes it's hard. So you got to be there to just tell them, look, we're in battle together, and I'm going to be here when the change comes. So reassure them that. That's a great way to be a problem solver when people are feeling discouraged. This is a good one, and you're going to run across this, and you're going to get calls, and you're going to get people who reach out to you because they're going to, it says, people quit this business because they expect to get paid for what they didn't do. And it's like, ouch, because people come in and their expectations are unrealistic, and you must make those expectations realistic. You must tell them that this is normal, you know. And every single new social marketer that I talk to, that is one thing that I say, is it's going to take some time. So what I'd like for you to do is just say, I'm going to be coachable and consistent, and I'm going to be here in 1 year. And I say, and I end it with, and watch what happens. So I said, I say, there's going to be times when you're ready to throw in the towel. You're going to say, this is just not for me. And you've committed to 1 year. And so let's just go ahead and take that pressure off of you, that you've committed to 1 year. So when that thought comes into your head, you got to say, but I committed to 1 year, and I'm not going to quit. So whatever you have to do, sign a contract with yourself, commit to 1 year, be coachable and consistent, and watch what happens. And they seem to be, okay, I can do that. I'm going to commit to 1 year. Every one of them say that. I don't know if they mean it, but they say that, but it kind of just frees them up to know you're not going to make $10,000 a month in 3 months here. It's going to take some time. Okay. But people quit this business because they expect to get paid for what they didn't do. And it's just the way it is. And, you know, there's some people that, you can get a call and they'll say things like, well, this chart says that bronze is $900 and my check is $800. What are you going to do about that? And I'm like, well, everybody's structure is different. It does depend on if you bring in a lot of customers at the lower end, if you've got platinum pod of toothpaste, it's not going to pay as much as the BioCell and the higher end products. So that's an approximate thing. And some people take it as literal, and you just have to say, but I close it up with, let me get this straight. You sold $3,000 worth of product and the company paid you $800. Where else are you going to find that? Can you point me in a direction that someone's going to pay you $800 for selling $3,000 worth of product and you didn't do anything but have them order it online? Would you point me in that direction? And they're like, well, you're right. So sometimes people can't see the forest for the trees, and you kind of have to say, let's talk about this for just 1 minute. I don't know where else you're going to make that kind of money simply selling some product. So, and then they seem to change their attitude, Okay, write this down. This is the formula for your business. There's always going to be 1/3 joining, 1/3 leaving, and 1/3 staying. That is the way your business is going to always be. 1/3 coming in, 1/3 leaving, 1/3 staying. And if you did your numbers and you looked at your team, it would probably break down to just about that. So it's just the way it is. As Jim Rohn says, I wouldn't sign up for that class. It's just the way it is. Being a problem solver also requires you to be very transparent. It also requires for you to learn better communication skills. And it also means that you have to learn to read people better. Everybody that I've ever had conflict with, by the end of the conversation, there's always been a come to Jesus and love each other. I'm a big advocate for let's talk this out. Let's talk this out now, and let's don't go to bed. It says in the Bible, you're not to go to bed angry. And so I like to get it in a reasonable, calm way. Let's talk this out and be open for, you can't wear your feelings on your sleeves. Let's just talk this out. Let's iron this out. Because at the end of the day, we really do care about each other. And so what I'm trying to say is you can learn to take a conversation that may be uncomfortable. And if you'll just address the issues and then start going into how much they mean to you. But let me tell you something. Yep. So all that happened. But let me tell you something. I think you're amazing. And I think you have amazing skills and talent. And I'm crazy about you. And I think you got a bright future here. Do y'all see how you have to turn it back around? And it's not that I'm saying those things blowing smoke. I mean them. I can't say them to someone I don't mean it to. But I've never run across that. So remember that formula. Okay, so you got 1/3 joining, 1/3 leaving, 1/3 staying. Of that, when you're solving some problems, 1 in 10 is going to do something with this. 1 in 10. So if you guys listen to Jim Rohn, if you haven't, please let me know because you need to listen to it. It's only like about an hour long, this one that I have. So he talks about a batter and how in Major League Baseball, you can hit that they pay them $4 million a year to hit the ball 3 times out of 10. Hello. So you see our averages are not off. If you do 2 in 10, if you get 2 in 10 people to run with this, you're above average. Go with it, run with it. But you have to understand, you've got to go through all 52 cards to find 4 aces. And you just got to flip them over. And you got to keep flipping. And remember, I'm going to throw this in here. You can build a massive organization, massive, team of people doing just a little bit. So if you're looking for the rock star, you're looking for the next person that's going to catapult you into superstardom and run you up the ranks, great. I hope that happens for you. But don't forget, you can make a massive paycheck and build a massive organization of building a team of a lot of people doing just a little. And guess what that means? It means you're diversified and your business is solid. So just remember that. So there can be the people that are just climbing, doing this overnight, doing it in their sleep. They seem to, everything's falling in their direction. You're back here and you're that little engine that could. I think I can. And you're going up that hill just a little bit and you're building this massive organization of a lot of people doing just a little. And you'll get there. It's going to take you longer, but your structure will be more solid than theirs. Do y'all get that? Does that make sense? Okay. Don't reinvent the wheel. Don't try to come in and do everything different, put a different spin on it and say, this way's better. My mom's infamous for that. You'll do something and you'll look over and she's doing the complete opposite and she'll say, this is better for you. I mean, like she's always doing it wrong. And so don't reinvent the wheel. All right. So here we go into the next page. Justin Prince trained on this, and this was an eye-opener for me. So when I was talking about getting people off to a good start, and you can overwhelm them and you can put too much on them and you have to meet them where they're at. So one of the reasons I thought I did that pretty well, but I think I'm doing it way better now because of what he taught. And it was this. He says you have to coach them where they're at. And the only way to know where they're at is to find out. So, because you can't coach somebody from here, everybody from here. Everybody's somewhere different, and you have to coach them from where they're at. You're not going to coach somebody that's been in the industry before and was a big leader the same way you would coach someone that's brand new and never done this before. So, and then there's all those people in between. You've got people who have been in sales and marketing their whole life. You've got people who've never sold anything in their life. You have to coach them from where they're at. So these are the questions that you have to ask at each level is, what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? And what needs to change? And those are the questions that you have to ask yourself when you are coaching them from their place. And all of a sudden I cannot think of her name, but the Tennessee women's basketball coach, she's the one that taught this. She would come into what's her name? Somebody type it in. Cause I cannot think of it. Y'all know who I'm talking about. She's the head coach for UT Vols basketball, and she died. Anyway, Pat Summitt. Thank you, Lindsay. Pat Summitt is the one who taught this. And he said that she would come at halftime. Like she kind of had a, understudy. She had understudies with her all the time. And, he told you, cause he's there in the room. Okay. Gotcha. She always had understudies with her. And there was this one time, it was halftime, and they went into the locker room, and the team went into the locker room, and she went into her office and sat down. And the person who was her protege or understudy was like, well, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And she said, no, the questions are out there on the board. And she said, you see, I can't coach them unless I know where they're at. And those are the three questions she had up on the board. What did they do right? What did they do wrong? And what needs to change? Those are the three questions that were, and so what she did is in halftime, these are the three questions that were on the chalkboard, and the team, while she was sitting in her office, they would get up and write on the board these answers before she came out to coach them for the next half of the game. Genius. Because she can't coach them until she knows where they're at. I just think that's genius. And so the same thing applies to us. We can't coach people unless we know where they're at. And these same things apply to us. And it's never, ever, ever going to be the same situation twice. So you can't be this robot that does the same thing every time, because that's not, you've signed up for the wrong business if that's the case. All right. Learning to be a good problem solver is, it is absolutely 100% necessary to be successful. No ifs, ands, or buts. And then I talked a little bit about this already, about being a good listener and not thinking what you're going to be responding with while they're talking and you haven't listened to what they said. My mind does it too. You have to train your mind not to do that, because you've just started, you weren't even listening to them because you were thinking about what you were going to say. A good leader listens, then responds. So I know I do it too. So don't act like you don't. We all do it. And that is a trait of a good leader, is listening. They listen and then they respond. They're not thinking the whole time, this is what I'm going to say as soon as they stop talking. And then you don't even know what they said. We got a lot of people to go rescue from desperate lives. That's for sure. And we have a lot of problems to solve in helping rescue them. This is good. Write this down. The enemy of success is comfort. How many of you have heard me say over and over, because there will be people that, the Monday Night MVP is a prime example. Some of those people are so nervous. They're like, I'm going to throw up. I'm going to pass out. And when I talk to them, I say, that is the best feeling, because that means they're growing. If you don't feel like that, you're standing still. You have to get butterflies. You have to get nervous. That means you're stretching yourself outside your comfort zone. So I'm here to tell you right now, I'm here to ask you, when's the last time you got uncomfortable? And if you can't remember, sister, there's your problem. If you got to get that heart rate up, you got to get nervous. You got to be like, oh, I'm scared. And you got to push yourself, because you all know that our heart, Justin teaches us this all the time. Your heart, your mind is designed to keep you alive. So when you do something uncomfortable and your heart rate goes up and your blood pressure goes up, your body says, whoa, 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 danger. You need to back away. You have to push through that. That means you're getting uncomfortable. And the more uncomfortable you are, the more successful you are. And I had to learn this myself. I know Missy just chimed in. And so you guys know my story, that we lost everything, and we lost our house, and it was absolutely horrible. And it was a long time. I would say a good year and a half, maybe 2 years before I could talk about it without crying. And so once I got comfortable with talking about that, then I went to the next level of throwing in, my dad passed away the month before I hit the rank. And I had to pick myself up and keep going. And so and then I'd cry in that part, and I still do. It just is such an emotional part of my life, but I wouldn't take anything for it, because I grew more during those times. That's just what it takes. Missy just chimed in on here, because when we were with our previous company, she was kind of at a point where she was like, if you guys could see some of us years ago, you would know how far we've all come. And one thing is she was like, I think I'm not sure that I'm relating to these people. And I finally had to say, you're not. And it was very hard. And that means I'm getting uncomfortable. And I just had to say, it looks like you have this gorgeous home, gorgeous pool, gorgeous family, and everything's perfect. And they can't relate to that. And so she had to come clean. And she started, and that was the day that I think she evolved into a whole nother person that's not so perfect, and understands that she doesn't have to be perfect, because no one can relate to that. And I think it took pressure off of her. So we're constantly growing, and we're constantly evolving. And sometimes it requires getting very uncomfortable. And yeah, she just said that's when it all changed. If you could see, to me, she's a different person than she was when I first joined in this business. That's how much she's grown. There's so many people on here that, Debbie, shut up. That have, it's the same story. It's the same exact story. Deanna's chiming in. Yes, she is. I mean, she's another one. It was one of the most memorable weekends in my career, was with her and her breakthrough moment that weekend, and just watching her evolve into this other person. And so we all are growing, we're all stretching, but I'm just here to tell you, my question is, when's the last time you got uncomfortable? And if you can't remember, you need to be getting uncomfortable really soon, because that's where the growth is really, really at. Okay. So the enemy of success is comfort. Okay. This is a very important part, not only for your team, but for you. This is another one. Write it down. Stay in the game long enough until the right people show up. Lisa Hodgkinson can probably answer that the best. She stayed in the game and she kept doing the do with very little return. And then one day, Donna Fuqua showed up and everything changed. Stay in the game long enough till the right people show up. Do y'all get that? I mean, is that not just like, I mean, come on. I mean, it's going to take some time. Let's see. This is another one. This is around problem solving. Are you ready for this one? You can tell the size of a leader by the obstacle that stops them. You can tell the size of the leader by the obstacle that stops them. Then you can tell the size of the leader by how long they stay down. There's so much freedom in 2 words, and they're I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So there's something that I've learned, and it is the sleepless nights, the going to bed rehashing conversations, the woulda, coulda, shoulda, all that mess. Let's get this ironed out. We're adults. Let's talk this out. We love each other. Let's move on. Let's don't go to bed think rehashing stuff. Let's talk about this now. I mean, I am all about, let's get this worked out right now. And it was like one of the best discoveries I ever discovered, because I can't stand that. I mean, like, I take medication for that. So I can't do that, because I'm one of those that when I go to bed, I rehash things. My mind won't turn off. And so I've had to learn this exercise along with medication. Nothing wrong with that, right? Not my fault. It's in the bloodline. Okay. People are going to be, this is a big one. People are going to get discouraged. But don't you dare be the one that discourages them. And there's going to come a time when that's going to happen. And you're going to be able to feed a situation that, because you just made the situation worse instead of better. Don't you dare be that person. One of the weeks we're going to talk about something, and it applies to what I just said. And I might be able to say it tonight. It says, oh, here it is. Being a good leader and leading by example means you don't say it, you don't type it, you don't repeat it. It ends with you. When people find out you told something you weren't supposed to tell, and it comes back to you, you're in trouble. So it's best when you're approached with a situation as a growing leader that is something that's just gossip or hearsay, don't type it, don't say it, and don't repeat it. there's a lot of respect that comes from not doing that. And okay. All right. So we're wrapping this up, talking about problem solving as a leader tonight. There's two more points that I want to make, and one we've already kind of talked about, and it is always sleep on it. Always sleep on it. Just if something's got you, if it's a situation you can't work out right now, that's going to require some response and some work, sleep on it and see how you feel tomorrow. That's another big thing that I've learned. If it's something you can work out right now, do it before you go to bed. But there's half of those situations can't be, and they're just unique to different things. And for those things that you could resolve, if you do it right now, it's only going to cause the situation to get worse. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Let me get back with you, right? So what you do is you just say, you just don't respond anymore for the night, and you just sleep on it. Now, when you get up tomorrow, how do you feel about it? If you still feel the same way, move forward. But 99.9% of the time, you feel differently. That's just a big lesson to learn. And you have to learn how to differentiate the two. That's nothing that can be taught. That's going to mean reading people and investing in people a little bit more. All right, this is the last thing, and this is one of the things that Justin Prince has taught. And here we go. You're going to want to write this one down. As leaders, we carry two buckets. One bucket is gas, and one bucket is water. And it's up to you as the leader to figure out when to pour which bucket when. So there's going to come a time when things are crazy and out of control, and it's up to you to pour water on that, and let's shut this down now. And then there's going to come a time when things are just heating up, and you got to know, I got to throw some fire on this because they're hot, and I got to keep going, and we're going to do this harder. We're going to go at it harder. We're going to give this more. You have to distinguish the two buckets and when to apply them. And that's something that, again, that I think if you just understand it, when the time comes, you'll learn which bucket to apply. And that's going to take some experience. A lot of these things are going to take experience. But my hope is that when you do experience them, that maybe, just maybe, some of these things will come to mind and help you through them. That's the whole reason for doing these leadership things, is to kind of put you ahead of the curve of just having to figure out a lot of these things, so that you can not only figure them out and be a leader, but you can be a great leader. And you can really, really go far in this business. So I'm going to turn off the recording, and y'all can talk.